Welcome, and thanks for listening to the Clive Barker Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to the imagination of Clive Barker. Did you see how I changed it up there? I was so proud I thought I had made up the works and worlds of Clive Barker, but in reality, I was recalling a subtitle from Phil and Sarah Stokes' Memory, Prophecy, and Fantasy biographical series on Clive. So it turns out I didn't make that up. If you knew that already, or you are Phil and Sarah, I'm sorry about that. It was in the back of my mind for good reason. It's a neat phrase that does a good job summing up what we all like to celebrate. But now that I figured it out, I don't feel right about stealing it. So anyway, this is episode 160, where we talk about Clive Barker news, including an original rare book is getting reprinted. More news about the Nightbreed Cabal Cut, Clive Barker book bundle, news about Paul Kane's Hellraisers, and more. We also are starting to think about this year's fundraiser, and that means we'll have some cool stuff to buy around the holiday time, maybe just a little bit later because these things last a month. We're doing most of the work, but we consider ourselves part of the community, so we want your feedback on that. So welcome to episode 160 of the Clive Barker Podcast. This is primarily a news episode, and we're going to have some discussion and talk about things that, we want to get feedback on. And I'm Ryan.
And I'm Jose. How are you doing?
Hey. So we can jump right into the news. In Tonight Again, which we previously have raved about, and we did an entire episode on it. It's being republished, which is good news because I kind of felt that it was too short of a run. You know?
Yeah. It was like 1,000 copies, I think.
Yeah. And so it's being republished by SST, Short and Scary Tales, who also did Barbie Wilds.
Sherlock. Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell.
Yeah, by Paul Kane, and Barbie Wilds' book, right?
Yeah.
Book Voices of the Damned. Right?
Yeah.
And also Paul Kane's Monsters. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I think they published a lot of Paul Kane.
The thing that's the most striking to me about their books is they have these awesome wraparound glossy hardcovers with neat where the like a textbook sort of where the painting on the cover is built into the cover instead of on a dust jacket, which I think
absolutely.
I think they look great. We're kind of trying to emulate that we're planning to emulate something like that on our book that we're working on.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, and we're probably going to get some more help from other listeners and other collaborators that are helping us to transcribe more episodes quickly.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's coming out from Short Scary Tale Publications, and the pre-orders are open. And if you go to sstpublications.co.uk, you'll find the featured product on the banner is Tonight Again. And it has a new cover by Brendan Malberg, and with little illustrations on the inside by Clive Barker, like the original one had. So it's coming out in early 2018.
Yeah, and, that'll be nice. For anybody that missed out on it the first time, I can't recommend it enough.
It's a lot of poetry, a lot of erotic fiction, a few short stories in there, really, really short. But very, very interesting to see this insight into the mind of, the queer mind of Clive Barker.
Well, and also these days it's a little more few and far between when Clive Barker puts out something original that we haven't read before.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's a lot of reprints and a lot of
stories that show up in anthologies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So here, for the most part, these stories are all new. There's, I think, one of them. Which one was it? Was it Fear? Is that what it was called? Oh, that first one, the very first story. It was. I
think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it came out in another anthology on Kindle or something, right?
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up, but I think you're right. One of them did come out before.
And Dolly, I think, was also published in a more obscure anthology. Actually, one that I bought and I never got because it was that artist's edition.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. You haven't got it? What happened to that?
That was that one where they they lost all the artist pages after they got signed.
Oh,
and so they had to send them out again. And every year I ask, and every year it's like, yep, we're still working on it. And it's like, I don't know if I'll ever see that.
Well, I hope you do.
Yeah.
But so this Tonight Again, Tales of Love, Lust, and Everything in Between is coming out from SST in 2 different editions. So you have the deluxe trade hardcover that is £23.95, and the trade paperback is $13.95. So that's for Americans, you're going to have to convert that and add some shipping to it.
Yeah, it's like 1.5 times, kind of, isn't it? I mean, roughly.
I don't know. I couldn't say. But, it says here pre-order free shipping. I'm not sure if this is just for UK or if it's...
You would think so.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Probably, yeah.
Maybe they have a book rate, too.
Mm-hmm. It says here, experience Tonight Again on 90 grams per square meter acid-free paper with your archive and legacy in mind. 2 full-color glossy plates tipped into the book, bound in full cloth with colored head and tail bands, hot foil stamping on the spine for exceptional quality and longevity, 2-color interior printing for quality, vibrant pages, offset printed and bound with full-color end papers for your ultimate enjoyment. Man, if I was a... this sounds like amazing for like book collectors. This sounds like book collector porn right here. Yeah. Soon binding for more durability, stunning cover art by Brandon Malberg, and extremely limited one-time printing. Your opportunity to own one of just 600 copies will never be offered again. Yeah. Until the next publishing company that reprints it, I guess. But
but jump on
from SST, this will be it. And again, you have Tonight Again, I Love You, Craw, A Fable, Afraid. I think that was the one you were talking about.
Afraid, that's it. Yeah.
Moved, I Imagine You, and so on and so forth. And don't forget, there's also an audiobook read by Doug Bradley that we also reviewed.
Yeah. So that one is not limited, of course. And then, do they have a limited number on the paperback or the 30-pound hardcover?
Well, it says here, trade paperback edition says SST is also proud to present the trade paperback edition of Tonight Again, containing an exclusive bonus story only showcased in SST's editions. This marks Clive Barker's first collection in over 25 years. You'll read more than 30 short stories and vignettes in this exploration of extremes. So it says that this new SST edition has another extra story called Day's Work by Clive Barker. A Night's Work, I'm sorry.
A Night's Work.
Yeah, A Night's Work. This sounds familiar to me.
It does sound familiar to me, too.
It was in the Bram Stoker Awards Weekend edition, Best New Horror 25, edited by Stephen Jones. I'm looking at the bibliography of the UK and US for A Night's Work. And then it says also Detours, edited by Brian J. Freeman, Cemetery Dance.
Yeah, that's the one that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It came out this year, apparently, USA 2017. And, that's it. Probably you're looking at the one from Cemetery Dance.
Oh, okay.
So you'll have to let me know how that story goes if you have it.
I don't. Yeah, I don't have it.
Okay, then.
Yeah, maybe we can get the paperback.
It was first published in 2013. So
I hate to rebuy a book, but yeah, I would want to get that extra story.
Yeah, right. It's just, so do I. So I guess we'll have to pre-order this.
Alice Cooper did one of his albums recently. He did where there was a different song at the end of every edition. Like if you bought it on iTunes or whatever, it'd have one song. If you bought it at Target, it'd have another, and Walmart had a different song on it.
Oh my God!
And he's like, "Oh yeah, collectors love that kind of stuff," and they're like, "No, that makes us crazy."
Well, yeah, labels love that kind of stuff because it helps them get double and triple dipping on things. Yeah. But usually, sometimes it's like live versions of something that they add to the end, right? It's like, oh, this was recorded live at this concert back in like 1998 or something. But my experience is that sometimes when there's like Japanese reissues, they do include different like studio outtakes and stuff at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, that does happen with a lot of bands.
Or like instrumental songs that weren't on there on the US version.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. You have this SST edition will feature a new exclusive story well, not exclusive because it's been published before, but a new story that most people probably haven't read called A Night's Work. And it comes in 2 different editions. So go check it out, ssdpublications.co.uk.
This next story, Clive Barker is going to be coming to Texas Frightmare Weekend in May of 2018. And so, of course, we were excited reading this, and the fan community is excited because he hasn't made appearances, particularly signings, in quite a long time. And it's easy to get wrapped up in this, but I think we kind of owe it to the fans to say, be cautious, because he may not be feeling up to it by the time the event comes around.
Yeah, we all know that Clive's health kind of floats a little bit here and there, depending on how he's doing. Mm-hmm. But it seems like he's been doing pretty good so far. Yeah. And he has mentioned to Revelations and Phil and Sarah Stokes on the latest revelatory interview that was published in clivebarker.info that he was feeling better, mm-hmm. physically. And, if you're friends with Johnny Raymond, Clive's partner, he's been posting a lot of new sketches that Clive Barker's been painting and stuff. So it seems like he's still keeping busy, still very creative, and feeling like more, stronger by the day. So yeah, I guess we'll see. This will take place in Dallas, Texas on May 4th, 5th, and 6th of 2018, like you said. And he would be joining he would be making his appearance with Hellraiser guest Doug Bradley, who's also going to be at the Texas Frightmare Weekend. Yeah. And you have a history of this convention, right? You've been there before.
Yeah, actually, this convention in 2011 was what inspired me to start this podcast. Mm-hmm. It was like I had waited in line for so long, I had so many things to sign that they asked me if I could stand aside and just kind of hang out at the table with everybody while they got everybody else in line. And I thought, that was a dream come true for me. I got to just stand there and talk to Clive and talk to Mark Miller especially, and we talked about Magica cards, and we set up our trades, and I had a long talk with Mark about Clive's health because he had to have Mark help him from the elevator to his signing table, and his neck was twisted over to the side, and Mark had explained that Clive doesn't sleep very much, and he he fell asleep in his chair so much that his neck got permanently sort of stuck. Right. With his head bent over to the side, and his equilibrium got messed up so that if he straightened it out, his balance would be all off. Yeah. And it seemed like, oh man, you got to see a chiropractor or something. But I know, now there's other issues too, besides just that. But in that day, I was so grateful for my time there, and I felt like, I just felt like this. At first, I was thinking I got to write a letter to them or something, and then I thought, no. I really love podcasts, and I started searching, and nobody else was doing one, and I thought, maybe that's how we could give something back.
Sure, and 5 years later, here we are. Yeah. So good job, Ryan.
Well, thanks. Well, yeah, and you too. And I think part of me is really wanting to kind of make the return trip, I guess pilgrimage to come back to where this podcast started. But
that would be something.
Yeah, money is tight, and he may not be able to make it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. We're closer to the event. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. If nothing changes, then that's good. Yeah. But it's not the first time that Clive has announced. I'm just being cautious here. I'm not saying that anybody is setting out to try to trick people or anything. But it's like I'm just saying that there's been some conventions that Clive said was going to be there, and then at the end is like, well, I'm not feeling well. I'm going to have to cancel. Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see. It seems like Clive has been doing much better. So this is new. He hasn't done conventions in a long time. So it would be nice to see him return. Maybe this will actually help him also, help his mood. I know that Clive Barker has been very, pessimistic about some things, and it would be good for him to feel the love of his fans again, I think. And so this would be Texas Frightmare Weekend at the Wyatt Regency near the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. And if you go to their website, which is www.texasfrightmareweekend.com, you can find the premium passes and the weekend passes and all that stuff. So it varies, of course. You can, from Friday pass to like the premium pass, you can go from $25 to $159. For the 4-day pass, for the weekend pass 4-pack, you can pay as much as $195, $300 closer to the event. So, there's going to be all sorts of like guests there, and of course, we know that people like other actors and celebrities apart from Clive Barker. So, go there and check it out. See who else is there, and yeah.
It was a really neat convention. It really was. I mean, it was the very first horror convention I'd ever gone to. Also, and it's also I hate to say this, it's also really interesting seeing what it's like being around a bunch of people in Texas.
Right. I bet it's different from Alaska.
Yeah, and the way people, the way just even like the way they cheer, when it's so different. It's like a lot of like hollering, and you expect them to be firing guns in the air and stuff, but
oh my god, like the millionaire from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that guy that shows up that is always like rival of Mr. Burns.
Yeah, but everybody was super nice. It was really cool.
No, it sounds like you got some of that Southern hospitality.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so that's another one. So Clive Barker coming to Frightmare Weekend. Let's see if that becomes a reality, and maybe if things go well with a new fundraiser, we may be able to do an on-location episode. That would be something awesome to look forward to.
And Gauntlet Press has an update on Everville.
Mm-hmm. So they asked the fans at one point, hey, which Clive Barker book would you like us to work on next, right?
Yeah, and I think Everville was the one that they eventually chose.
They say that Clive Barker's Everville is now being currently proofed, and after the corrections are made, it will then go to the printer. So since Clive Barker's Everville is close to going to the printer, here is some more bonus material you can expect. Compliments of Phil and Sarah Stokes. And here the list follows. Everville contains a total of 28 illustrations by Clive Barker. We have solicited dealers and have just a few copies of the lettered edition available. Last year, the Great and Secret Show sold out prior to publication. If you want a copy, especially of the lettered edition, signed by Caitlin R. Kiernan and Josh Boone, as well as Barker, be sure to order now before we're sold out.
Yeah.
So that's their new update on it.
Well, this was the one where they said, like, which some consider to be a sequel to the Great and Secret Show.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, what else is it?
Yeah,
it's totally a sequel.
Yeah.
I guess it's when Clive Barker talked about a trilogy. So I guess when you talk about a trilogy, can you really say that this book is a sequel to the other book, or is it just a continuation of it? I guess it's just semantics at this point. It's just part of the big story. It's like saying, oh yeah, the Two Towers is a sequel that Tolkien wrote to that other book. It's like, well, it's just a continuation of the story. Yeah. I think that's what they meant when they said that.
Even all the Hellraiser movies are sequels, even though they've got nothing to do with each other.
Right.
Except for the first 4.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's good. If you're a collector, and you haven't had you only have like a paperback edition of Everville, and you always wanted to have a cool, version of it. It's nice to have a hardcover.
Yeah. Yeah. And that bonus material sounds neat, especially all the illustrations.
Absolutely.
So the Cabal Cut. This will be the last time we talk about the Cabal Cut.
Yeah, it's been a bumpy ride so far, but I think now most people are happy with it. And go ahead.
Yeah, the posts have been positive about it, and people are like, "Oh yeah, now there's 750 copies available." And the truth was, there were only 150 copies because they had given away a whole bunch of them to cast and crew members and people who were, people like Simon Bamford and Nicholas Vince that were going to conventions and stuff. They got a whole bunch of copies that they could do with what they want. and they put not the deluxe edition, but the regular standard edition. And
right.
So the ones that were on sale on the website, there were really only 150 left, and now they're sold out.
Yep. So they did this also as a way of like giving a middle finger to the resellers and scalpers who were getting ridiculous prices that sometimes these things were popping up on Occupy Midian on Facebook, and some people were saying we should kneecap these scalpers and we should do this and we should report their eBay auctions. And I was like, oh, it's like,
I mean, the person whose fault it is the person who's willing to pay, $600, $700 for a movie.
Yeah, I guess you can't control that. I mean, people will put it up on eBay, and it's like Salvador Dali once said about. Like one guy asked him if he could sign like this printing paper and then he could print like prints of Salvador Dali's paintings and sell them. And he said, well, if some people want to produce those cheap imitations of my paintings and other people want to buy them, then I guess that I'm okay with it. They deserve each other. So,
yeah, right.
As long as he gets paid, it's like, I don't care. But so it says here, when they put it up for sale, it was up for sale on the 20th of November, and they sold out the other 150 copies, and it said, notice, after seeing the grossly inflated prices that many people are reselling the standard edition Blu-ray for, we have a secured permission from Morgan Creek to sell our remaining stock, as we were previously restricted to selling 50 copies. We hope this annoys the resellers. This remaining stock shall become available on Monday, the 20th of November. Please note, though, that this will not include the deluxe editions, which will forever and always remain limited and numbered to 200 copies.
Yeah.
So if you have one of those, congratulations. That's not going to change.
This is kind of a weird situation, too, because the standard edition, that was the cheaper one, the $50 one, ended up being at the beginning the one with the least amount of copies, right? There were only 50 copies of that.
That's true.
There were a bunch of people out there banking on that cheaper one actually being the more rare of the two, which is kind of silly because you can take a deluxe edition and slip it out of the slipcase and it will look exactly like another, standard edition.
Right. Well, the deluxe edition was a package. It wasn't just the Blu-ray. Like the Blu-rays, the disc is the same for both standard and deluxe.
Yeah.
The only difference was
the inside artwork. It was all the same.
Yeah. So the only thing that was different was that one had a slipcase that was numbered and came with posters and enamel pin and all that stuff that we talked about dozens of times, maybe hundreds, especially over at Occupy Midian.
Yeah, right.
So, and of course, again, it was not even meant to be a standard edition. It was just going to be the 250 deluxe editions. And then they just thought, well, maybe we can cut a break to the collectors and just make some standard editions that'll be cheaper so more people can buy them. Because they weren't sure if those were going to sell. I mean, people were like, oh, this is going to sell out and the website's going to crash and all that and blah, blah, blah. And I guess people knew better because the people at the store, they were like, I don't even know if this is going to sell out. I don't know. I think we'll be fine. And then we put it up for sale on Occupy Midian with that exclusive link to it. And it was like, in 1 hour, the standard editions were sold out. And then by the end of the day, I mean, the deluxe editions were sold out by the end of the week. So it was good to have more people be able to buy one because some people, some really active people over at Occupy Midian had missed their chance. And we actually got a message today from some people who were showing us videos of them unwrapping their Cabal Cut edition, which is nice. It's a fuzzy feeling to see people so happy about it.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. That was cool.
That was cool. Yeah, Mark. Yeah. Congratulations on getting a copy. And so I'm sure a lot more people now got a copy. I know there was 8,000 people on Occupy Midian, and, it still wasn't enough. But, again, that's the scale we have to work here. So that's it.
I know I'm having a hard time with people trying to convince me that there is a conspiracy or that there's a downside to having more copies available to the fans.
Yeah.
that just seems really disingenuous to me. I don't like it. You know,
or that the 50 copies of the standard were supposed to stay 50 copies. I mean, they were never told that it was going to be.
Yeah,
they're not numbered. They're not numbered, for starters. So we never really said that there were only going to be 50 copies. To be honest, Ryan and I did not even know that there had been a minimum order of 1,000 Blu-rays to make up for the ratio between disc cost and disc cost per disc. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? So,
yeah. And there was one guy on Occupy Midian that said, how can they sell 250 copies when the minimum order for Blu-rays is 1,000? And it was like, well, I'm not in the industry. I mean, I'll take your word for it, I guess. Maybe that's true, or maybe they found some other company you don't know about. But nobody, we didn't really get that level of detail.
Right. So eventually, when the Clive Barker store started giving us more information, that's when we started giving the fans more information, of course, because we always want you guys to stay informed, and we're just conveying the information to you. We don't work for the Clive Barker store or anything. So, I mean, that's all we can do. It's run the community of Nightbreed fans called Occupy Midian, and we do the best job we can. And sometimes, we get people who get mad at us, but it's like we don't control these things.
Yeah.
We just got a few discs each. Each of us got a few discs of the standard edition. We didn't even get a numbered slipcase, to be honest. We didn't even get one of those. The 200 of those went to all the fans who bought the $250 package and got all that stuff. We didn't even get that package. We only got the discs. We only got a slipcase that was unnumbered, and then maybe an extra couple of copies of the standard edition, which we're saving for our next fundraiser. Anyway,
I did sell 2 of them at $50 for 3 of them at $50 to our listeners.
Right.
Which some people got kind of annoyed, like when they found out about it on Occupy Midian. It's like, wait a minute, we missed that. But it's like, well, we.
Anyway,
we post on that. We post on that Occupy Midian constantly, and
it's a good thing that more discs were made and more people out there have the Cabal Cut to watch and to treasure and to add it to their collectibles, and I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sorry to see them all go. Frankly, they're by the time that. Nicholas, Vince, and Simon have sold all their copies, which I'm sure they did at that convention they went to in Chicago.
Yeah. Days of the Dead?
Yeah. Well, and Simon had flown over and visited with Clive Barker, so was he also going to something in California?
So, Simon Banford was at Days of the Dead, Chicago, and before that he stopped by Clive Barker's house and visited Clive. So he posted a few pictures, including this really cute one called The Dog Company, which is Clive's dogs just hanging out at the stairway near an office. So that was pretty. That was a nice picture. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool, and presumably that's when he probably picked up his copies of the Cabal Cut, or maybe he got them shipped to him.
Right.
Yeah.
So next on the news, we have Dark Regions Press Clive Barker book bundle. And so there's some available, I think. Let's see what we got here. Yes, it says here, with the holiday season fast approaching, Black Friday looming around the corner, I know many of us are starting to think about and go shopping for gifts and presents for friends and family. So Dark Regions Press released a new book bundle that will be the perfect gift for any Clive Barker fan. Its contents read as follows. Clive Barker's The Body Book, signed and numbered hardcover. Do you have that one, Ryan?
Yes.
The Body Book? Okay. Imaginer Art Books, limited edition oversized hardcovers, volumes 2 and 3. The Midnight Meat Train Special Definitive Edition trade hardcover and ebook. I always love how the Midnight Meat Train book ended up having this long name, like the Midnight Meat Train Special Definitive Edition trade hardcover. It's like a train itself, right?
Yeah, right.
And then the Last Illusion.
Meat Train is already kind of a long title to start with.
Yeah, and then the Last Illusion unsigned limited edition hardcover. 2 Dark Regions Press bookmarks, $50 darkregions.com gift certificate, and There's only 7 bundles available, and by the time I'm saying this, probably they're all gone. Let me see. Retail value of $355. Shipping now. Will ship from 2 locations. So, they're still available.
Yeah, Marcus just posted this on the 18th, so it wasn't too far back.
I'm at the Dark Regions website right now, and it says here, Holiday Special 4 Clive Barker Bundle. This 355 bundle is going for $225 right now, and there's 7 items left. So I guess they haven't sold any yet. So, I guess that's cool. The Last Illusion, of course, is the old Fiddle Black edition.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. One thing that confuses me sometimes about Dark Regions Press. I forget that they're like a book reseller. They don't just publish and print books. They also gather them up from other similar kind of publishers and resell them. So which is tripped.
That's why they're selling sometimes. The Imaginer books. Yeah. So there's still 7 bundles available at the time that we're recording this, which is now past midnight here in Arizona, and for you it's almost 11:30. But
almost 10:30.
Yeah, I guess that daylight savings doesn't work in Arizona.
Yeah.
So 7 items left, which means 7 bundles are still available. I hope that they can sell all these bundles and make some Clive Barker fans very happy.
Yeah, that's a lot of cool stuff. I think I have all of that except for my Midnight Meat Train is the regular one. I mean, whenever we can, we pretty much, when we're paying for them, you and I think both pretty much go for the regular $40 editions of things, and not the $700 or whatever.
Like you said, money is tight. Yeah. And I started working 2 jobs. You recently started working, another job. So we're just making ends meet here.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. I've still sort of kept my old job. Like I go in every once in a while to help with projects and stuff. That reminds me of going in early tomorrow.
Okay.
I almost forgot about that.
We're almost done with the news here. Yeah. So let's see what else we have. We have more news about another bundle. Alan Datlow's anthology Darkness includes Clive Barker's Jacqueline S. story. Is in the Tachyon Publications Humble Bundle, and you can find this if you go to humblebundle.com/books/sci-fi -fantasy-tachyon-books. Okay, we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
It's long, but So is this ebooks? Is that why they're doing a humble bundle like that? Because typically humble bundles are things that you download.
Yeah, what I'm looking at here says $231 worth of digital books. Pay what you want, DRM free, multi-format. So you can go through all the bundles that they have, and a lot of these authors, you might know some of them, or out there, our listeners may be fans of some of these people. We got Kate Elliott, Tad Williams, Bruce Sterling. Some of these names ring a bell to me, others don't. Cory Doctorow, but yes, Brendan Sanderson. So go check out the Humble Bundle, and don't forget that there's here's Alan Datlow's anthology Darkness. That includes Clive Barker's Jacqueline S. story, which, like you said, it's a story from the Books of Blood. It's just being reprinted in another anthology. But, if you're into buying a bunch of books to read through the holidays and stuff, this might be a good opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's always interesting to get these anthologies that have Clive Barker stories in them, because then you end up reading a bunch of stuff that you may not have come across otherwise.
Right, that's a good way to meet new voices and find new authors that you may become enthralled with. That's how I discovered a lot of good writers. Is I buy one of those anthologies, and if one of the stories jumps out at me, I try to find more about that author. So it's a good thing.
And another book that you had ordered actually like back in 2012, right? Paul Kane's Hellraisers. Mm-hmm. Has an update. The cover was revealed, and it's a pretty cool looking cover, actually. It's kind of in keeping with this kind of new clean look Pinhead that's been popping up on things in this Hellraiser 30th anniversary period.
That's true. It's a good time, like I mentioned in a previous episode, that this was a good time for this book to come out. And it finally seems to be coming out. Avallard Publishing. Let me just pull up the information here real quick. It says, coming soon from Avallard Publishing, Paul Kane's Hellraisers, brand new interviews with the creators of the Hellraiser mythology, is out very soon in ebook form with hard copy following in the new year. Fully illustrated and packed with exclusive interviews with the cast and crew of the Hellraiser films. So I pre-ordered this back in 2012, I think. So it's been 5 years for me. Maybe even before that. I don't know. I have to check. So this book has been a long time in the making, and we've had Paul Kane in the podcast a few times, and he dropped a few nuggets about the book, like saying that he did secure an interview with Kevin Yeager about Hellraiser Bloodline. So that's interesting. Looking
that's
forward
big
to that.
because he doesn't typically talk about Hellraiser Bloodline.
Right. And Paul Kane is also promoting this book by saying, to whet your appetites for Hellraisers, here's an oldie but goodie interview with Clive on my site. I will add that one to the show notes. It's from his website, shadowwriter.co.uk. And it's an interview that's very interesting because this was posted by Paul Kane on Twitter, by the way, which you can find at Paul Kane Shadow. His interview has Clive talking about when he was working on the Scarlet Gospels. This was back in FantasyCon 2006, so it's been 11 years. And there's lots of cool stuff here that we never really got to see in the Scarlet Gospels. So who knows what happened to this stuff? But he was mentioning things like that Damour would be seeing this vision of seeing Christ in the cross, and that he would see that the crown of thorns digging into Christ's head would be kind of how the nails dig into the flesh of Pinhead. And he even quotes some dialogue that would happen here. It says, Harry says, there's another who's been at the back of my head, and I couldn't think who it was, but I've remembered now. Christ tells Damour in his vision, what about the other? His head is pierced like yours, not with thorns, but with nails. Christ says, how he must suffer. And Damour would reply, you think so? Oh, I'm certain. So have him come to me. I would turn him. I would bring him into the circle of my suffering. Harry says, he's done terrible things. And then the conversation would get a lot darker, blah, 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 blah. So that's what Clive Barker was talking about, his vision of Damour seeing Christ on the cross and talking to Jesus Christ. He said it was a wonderful chance to have Christ say, well, bring Pinhead over. It'll be fine. We'll chat. He's had some nails. I've had some thorns. So, and we never saw this. I mean, it's the kind of stuff that makes you wonder what's in that office, what's in those binders in Clive Barker's house that has like the last Hellraiser story. And even though we saw them, we didn't really go through them, but we saw them there. And it's like, what happened to this stuff? What happened to the Scarlet Gospels? So a mystery that will always stay with us until many years from now, probably, when someone makes a critical edition of the Scarlet Gospels, and maybe Phil and Sarah can go through that manuscript stuff and just make a critical edition. That would be something amazing. That would be amazing. Great. So if you're listening, please consider that.
Yeah, right. And, of course, speaking of Phil and Sarah, you can still go buy The Magician and History of the Devil play books from their Clive Barker archive site. I just recently added them to my Christmas list and forwarded that to my mom, who is not listening to this podcast. So I'd say, Mom, buy me those, but she's not listening.
That's cool. And I also have to order that because my birthday just came up on November 15th, so I have to buy myself a goodie. And I also want to remind people that there's this great website called Goodreads. And if you go to Goodreads and have yourself an account there that I think you can do it with a Facebook account, you can enter a giveaway for The Magician and the History of the Devil that's currently going on there. Yeah, you can. Cool. It's open to readers worldwide. It ends on the 18th of December, 2017, and we'll add links to the two giveaways on the show notes. So go there and you can get a copy of these two books, these two fantastic play scripts by Clive Barker, which I'm looking forward to read soon. And the last thing on our news today is that Gizmodo, the website, featured an article this week that was Fight Club author Chuck Palahniuk has the best Clive Barker story. And this article goes on to talk about how, about Chuck Palahniuk has a new book that's a long-form fiction that's also a coloring book. And
what?
It's true. It's true. It's called Legacy, an off-color novella for you to color. And so it's a tale as darkly humorous, the article goes on to say, as an anecdote Palahniuk has of another beloved writer, horror maestro Clive Barker. And the article talks about other anecdotes that Palahniuk mentions, but the one about Clive Barker is, I think some fans might know about this, that one time Clive Barker was doing a signing. So the story that he mentions is that there was a kid who stood in line to get Clive Barker's book signed by him, and as he stepped up to the autograph table, he took out a razor blade and said, "Clive, this is for you," and slashed his wrists and started bleeding all over the table. And he said, Chuck Palahniuk says, years afterward, I asked Barker what he'd done. He insisted the wounds weren't that deep. Nevertheless, he'd had the focus to lean over the table. Barker had grabbed both of the kid's wrists and twisted them so he could press the bleeding cuts down against the kid's books. He'd staunched the bleeding long enough to save the kid's life, and Barker said he'd even scrawled his own signature across the array of books in the kid's blood before the paramedics arrived. So there you go. And then he goes on to mention another one that involves blood with Stephen King, that he had some blisters from signing books, and he started bleeding, and then people were like, "Oh, you're bleeding on the books. We have to bandage you." And other people said, "Well, don't bandage him before he bleeds on my book." And Stephen King actually just kind of went through with it and just dabbed a little bit of blood on everybody's book and kept signing. And
man,
yeah. No, sorry, that's not Stephen King. I'm sorry, Kim Ricketts. Never mind. Yeah, Kim Ricketts. So, yeah, just read the article. It's interesting. He mentions more stuff about other people that he met in his life. So that was the anecdote about Clive Barker, though.
But Gizmodo are the ones that paid they paid for a stolen iPhone.
Yeah, I guess. But they don't. The company has changed hands now. So.
Oh, okay.
That's why they're doing. Gizmodo's doing stories about books.
Yeah,
instead
I was
of
wondering
technology.
about that. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
That's it for the news.
Yes. So our next thing that we wanted to talk about is our upcoming fundraiser. Clive Barker Podcast presents Fundraising Inferno 5.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're kind of looking for ideas for it right now. I mean, I think we're in the preliminary stages, but I want to get it up here soon, before the holidays. Then people will might be buying some of the things that we have on our Kickstarter, for Christmas presents. So it'd be good.
We have some ideas. Yeah, we got some ideas here. I mean, let's look at the article and see what you wrote here. Yeah, you go through a list of enumerating the things that we've delivered so far from our previous commentary.
And what we haven't delivered so far, only because there's only 52 weeks in a year, and we didn't count the number of things, as we were doing more and more stretch goals.
Yes, and our lives got a little complicated recently. I mean, for the last 5 months here in Arizona, it's been a little complicated for me and Sarah because, we're unemployed. I mean, I'm not unemployed anymore, but
yeah.
So the things are a little complicated in terms of knowing where we're going, if we're staying here, if we're moving. We had the house packed for the last couple of months, and we're just doing our best to see if our situation is going to change soon. But
and also Clive Barker's A to Z of horror. We had originally the original idea was that it would be an episode, right? But it really turned into something much bigger, and I think it was a lot better to do it, to break it down into talking about 4 letters per episode until we got through the whole alphabet.
I agree. I think it opened up our podcast to be able to talk about other things that were not just Clive Barker news.
Yeah.
And we could talk about things that were mentioned in the books, like other movies, other stories, serial killers, stuff like that. So that was interesting. That was a fun experiment. We even did that No Clive Barker podcast episode one time.
Because we got inspired by the A to Z of horror.
Yeah, we just decided to talk about things that we liked ourselves,
Yeah, and that was fun. And
that was a lot of fun.
So there were a couple of things, a couple of ideas that I did have, as far as like what we can do. Well, one thing is T-shirts. We're definitely going to have at least five T-shirts from the our design number 2, with the boat and the skull and stuff like that, and the Clive Barker Podcast logo at the bottom. So we have some of those left over, kind of as a result of our last fundraiser.
Yes.
So we'll have those. We will also be able to have posters, and one really cool thing, but they'll go pretty quickly. But we'll have Cabal Cut copies,
Blu-rays. Yes,
Blu-rays. Yeah, we'll have Blu-rays of the Cabal Cut.
We'll have some, not many, maybe 2, maybe 3. Let's see how many we can put up and bundle them with other things that we will make it more attractive.
Right, yeah. I could bring the Imagica cards back again. I mean, I sold some of them, but obviously I still have a lot left.
We still have some of those prints from Clive Barker. Don't Trust the Smiling World, so we can bring those back again for this fundraiser.
And those Imaginer 2 posters, right? You still have some of those too.
Very few, but yes, we still have some of those. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of things, and as far as like goals, we're still gonna hit the things that we promised from last year. There's some book episodes that we didn't get to. We may be able to make Sacrament before the end of this year. We'll see how it goes. Our next episode after this one will be wrapping up the Nightbreed comics, and then and then then probably news again, and then we can get into Sacrament if we have it read by that point.
Yeah, or Mr. Be Gone or something like that. Yeah, because that's a really like quick and easy book to read.
Yeah. Yeah,
as well.
That's true.
But yeah, I've started reading Sacrament the other day, and I came back from work after spending like an entire afternoon on my feet and walking around the store and all that. And I just went to the spa, and I took Sacrament with me, and I was just reading like the first chapter, and I was like, hey, this is fun, just reading a book without the stress of having to make an episode like in a week or so, without having the deadline. So I started looking at that, and I was like, wow, this is a really cool book.
That's a good idea. I should probably start reading it too. But it's like I also should be spending more time transcribing episodes, interviews.
That too. Yeah. We're going to start doing some promos about the book. We're going to start posting some excerpts here and there, just to show you what sort of things you can expect from the transcribed episodes that we're going to put into the books. So we're also getting some other people who are coming in that are willing to help transcribe some of these episodes, because like, it's like how long does it take to transcribe it? Well, about 10 minutes of dialogue takes about an hour to transcribe, and some of our episodes can go on for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it's complicated, and sometimes you have to like go through the same thing 2-3 times to understand properly what's being said. And you have to look up names, and you have to look up proper spelling of places and names and stuff. And it's a little complicated, but we're getting there. We're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be ready by the end of this year. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is we'll probably open up the prospect of buying books through the Kickstarter again next year. And that's not to say anyone who already bought it, your money's spent, you're going to get one.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. You've pledged your money and you'll get your book. Don't worry about it. You're in the system.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, since it's not finished yet, and why not sell some more? If people are, still interested in that. We haven't had any other means of ordering it since then.
So what other ideas do we have for the Kickstarter? I wrote a few just before we started our episode today. So we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you, the listener. It's like, what do you want to see the Clive Barker podcast go into this next year?
Well, and Paul Fluitt had written, he said, more of the same, I'd say. I'd like to hear more interviews with Barkerverse personalities. We've had quite a few from the Hellraiser and Nightbreed world, so how about trying to get some of the graphic novel writers and artists? Dig deeper? So I think he makes a good point. I think that we have sort of fallen off on interviews. Mainly we've done interviews that sort of happen more naturally instead of like pursuing it, because it's really kind of more of a scheduling thing. Because we get all, it's really easy when it's you and I to put together an episode, but when we've got somebody on the East Coast or
the UK,
it can be a little tough to schedule that Skype call. And then, so I don't know. I think we've kind of sort of gravitated towards not pushing so much on the interviews. But I think that's a good idea, though. I think we could put something like, we can't promise specific people, for the Kickstarter, but we can promise a certain number of interviews.
I guess, yeah. We can, like you said, I mean, some people, we can approach them, and some people may be willing to do the podcast. So we've been lucky so far that nobody has said no.
Actually,
I mean,
no,
except
Malcolm Smith said no.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Malcolm Smith.
He said yes at first when I met him in person, and then later on in email, he said, you know what, I changed my mind.
Yeah, okay. So, but yeah, we'll definitely push to dig deeper, and that's a great idea. I mean, there's people who are on Facebook that have worked in things like Books of the Damned for Marvel, like that's Hellraiser stuff. There's writers, there's artists. Yeah, we could totally do it. I mean, even artists and writers that have been working on Hellraiser anthology, for example, like Riley Schmitz and people who have done work for the Clive Barker store, for example. Yeah, it's a possibility. We can definitely try getting in touch with more people. Yeah, and we still would like to be able to interview or approach Stephen Jones, who's edited so many books about Clive Barker stuff, including Shadows in Eden and the A through Z of horror book, stuff like that. Yeah, we definitely want to do that. And we have another interview that we're working on with Julian Perry, who's going to be he worked in Nightbreed, and he worked in a whole bunch of other movies and TV shows like Farscape and Aliens and stuff like that. So we're still working on getting more interviews. Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of times lately they've been people that we just end up talking to on Facebook or whatever, then they happen more naturally, but we can, we can seek them out more. I think it's just our schedules have been feeling a little tight. Yeah. And it's been getting harder to squeeze in episodes with just you and I only being 2 hours apart. And I may be working 2 jobs and working 7 days a week. So that's
right. Yeah.
But yeah, I have other ideas. I mean, I don't know how listeners would feel about this. And I've approached these ideas to you recently, but it's like, should we start opening our commentary tracks to something more marginally fantastic that is not directly Clive Barker related? Like, classic horror, maybe. I mean, there's movies that Clive Barker likes, for example. I mean, like The Bride of Frankenstein or Dracula. I mean, we could make our own commentary tracks for a few quirky movies here and there that we like, and see if people are willing to want to listen to those. I don't know. I mean,
there's the ones that he made a short appearance in, like, was it the Blood Llama? What is that one?
Barn of the Blood Llama.
Barn of the Blood Llama, and there's like Sleepwalkers, Mick Garris's Stephen King movie.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, we should do a commentary track for that one, for Sleepwalkers.
Yeah,
I would totally do that.
And yeah, just let us know what you think. I mean, do you not like it when we stray too far away from what we're about? Or, do you think that it's okay and you don't mind hearing us, talk about other things that are just only marginally or tangentially sort of related to Clive Barker?
Yeah, I mean, we can make more reviews of music soundtracks from Hellraiser movies like Candyman, Lord of Illusions. Do you want us to make more regular music posts like Tuesday Tunes? We can put more work into that, I guess. Or we could start reviewing or posting more, YouTube videos with Clive Barker, like old interviews. We've been getting a lot of those from one of our friends, Danny. He's been like scouring YouTube for like old Clive Barker interviews, and some of them are pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that Horror Cafe from 1990, that show that had Clive Barker, Roger Corman, Carpenter, and I think Lisa Tuttle, maybe, and a few other writers that try to come up with a story, a collaborative story around a table, around a dinner table, and they were like talking about what horror means to them and stuff like that. We can review that. So we can make an episode about that. Or so who would you like to see us interview? Give us names. Give us like ideas. Or we can make an episode about Clive Barker's authorized biography, The Dark Fantastic.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so and also, what kind of prizes would you like to see? I mean, or what do you call them, backer rewards? I mean, not that we have a whole lot of say in, we get donation boxes from Clive Barker's office and from some other, various places sometimes, and some stuff from my collection, and some stuff from that you got from Century Guild. Yeah.
So we have to work with what we got. Sometimes it's not. Or we can try to we did make products of our own here and there. Like we made like that USB, the thumb drive with all our episodes and stuff like that. That was a lot of work, but I guess there's people out there who now have the entire library of episodes.
Yeah, I think that was like 1 through 100 at the time when we did that.
Yeah, now there's a lot more.
Yeah. This is episode 160 now that we're on. I would like to. It's always kind of a neat surprise too, because we don't know what Seraphim is going to send us until the box arrives and we open it. So that part is fun too. So that'll be a surprise for everybody. Yeah,
so send us your best ideas, what you want to see us talk about, and who would you like us to approach for interviews? I mean, we'll do the best we can. I mean, obviously, we can't promise that we will do those people, because if they don't want to do it, we can't force them.
Right.
But, and let us know what ideas you have for the fundraiser, and we'll do our best to make them happen.
We could have a podcast of somebody saying, "Who is this? How'd you get my number?" And there's the interview, folks.
Okay. Well, I think this is it for this episode.
Yeah.
And just please send us more feedback and give us reviews, because sometimes it's hard to make a podcast without knowing what people want and how people are experiencing our podcast, and what sort of things do they want to criticize about it. So your feedback is really valuable for us, because it helps us make our show better every year.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't had a huge amount of feedback. I mean, other than people saying, "Oh yeah, we love Clive Barker, keep up the good work."
Which is nice. It's fun to hear that too.
Yeah. The feedback that I really don't like is like, "Who are you guys? I was expecting this to be Clive Barker." That's not my favorite.
Yeah, that does happen. That does happen sometimes. Okay. And this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end.
Find the show notes for this episode and join the discussion over at www.clivebarkercast.com, where we have news and links to all the ways you can connect with us. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and every other place you can find podcasts. The Clive Barker Podcast is an independent editorial podcast and news blog that is not affiliated with or under contract by Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.